Just bringing the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Madam Speaker, thank you for joining us this morning. Congratulations on the outcome on Tuesday. I know there's still a lot of votes to be counted. And we have a lot of news to get to, but before we get to that, just wanted to ask, how is your husband, Paul, doing?
Well, thank you for asking. Good morning. He's one good day after another. He's improving. It'll take a little while, but we've been so comforted by the outpouring of so many prayers and good wishes, and even people saying, I wasn't going to vote, but now I'm going to vote because this has gone too far. But thank you so much for asking. I'll convey that to him.
Please do. You know, we last spoke in September. You were confident then that the Democrats would do well, kind of a lonely voice at that time, given high inflation and President Biden's low approval ratings. How did Democrats do it?
Well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging that we had a different approach. It was not anything that we ever accepted when the pundits in Washington said we couldn't win because history. Elections are about the future. I'm very proud of our candidates, both our incumbents as well as our red to blue candidates. They never accepted the punditry that they couldn't win. They had courage, they had purpose, and they understood their district. They also rejected calls from Washington about, oh, your message should change. No, our message was clear. People over politics, lower cost, bigger paychecks, safer communities. And they knew the value of a woman's right to choose. They knew how important it was to protect our democracy. They knew the contrast between themselves and their opponents. And that is what made them win. It wasn't about Washington says you should change your message. Washington says you can't win. I hope that's a lesson, because really it depresses the vote sometimes when people say it's all over 18 months before the election. We never accepted that.
Now, the road to keeping the Democratic majority is still quite narrow. Democrats have to run the table on the toss-up race is still out there to keep control of the House. Do you see a realistic path to victory?
Well, let me just say that it's a quite different path than everyone predicted. And I give tribute, of course, to our candidates. I also give credit to our grassroots. There are VIPs, our volunteers in politics. Millions of doors knocked, millions of doors knocked. So they crossed a threshold. They leapfrogged over all the predictions and the rest. Whatever the outcome, we're on the path to taking our country to a better place than was being dragged down by the other side. So we'll see. I'm disappointed what happened in New York. That 4 votes could make the difference at the end of the day, but we haven't given up, and we haven't given up because of the quality of our candidates, the purpose of our why this is important. And President Biden did a great job presenting about our democracy being on the ballot. President Obama making sure people understood it was important for them to vote, even though there were those who were saying it's all over 18 months ago. So it took a great deal to get to where we are, and we'll just see. I said before, and you've heard me say when I walk in the park, it's like the Olympics. In a half a second, you can be gold, silver, bronze, or honored to be an Olympian. They would be all very close races. They continue to be. But again, we're very proud of the outcome, and we're very proud because it was a victory for the people, not the punditry, but for the people, as well as the success in Nevada is a personal joy for so many because of Harry Reid, but politically so important for the country. The president, we have the White House, we have the Senate, and we're going to have a big, strong vote in the House, a very different outcome than some would have predicted.
And if Democrats keep the majority, will you run again for Speaker?
Right now, I've said I'm not making any comments until this election is finished and we have a little more time to go. I wish it would be faster, but it isn't.
It's going to take some time to count those votes in California, I know. How about on the other side, your Republican counterpart, Kevin McCarthy? It looks like even if Republicans do prevail, we're going to be talking about 219, 220, maybe 221 votes in the House. Can he govern with that kind of a majority?
Well, it depends on their purpose. In our House, we had those kinds of numbers, but we were united. We were very united in terms of being there for America's working families. That dominated our discussion. Although we have our differences of opinion, on certain issues, when it came down to the main purpose of the Democrats, America's working families, there was no question that we would win every vote that we took to the floor. And the new members coming in, again, the constant reinvigoration of the Congress that our founders intended. They are so diverse generationally, geographically, opinion, ethnically, gender ID. It's going to be a wonderful class who will be speaking so clearly to it. We have one of the youngest members, Congressman to be Frost, coming in, and it's pretty exciting for us. So it's not just about what the ultimate vote is, it's about what the message and purpose will be demonstrated to the American people. And again, it's about our democracy. Our democracy was on the ballot. Our planet was on the ballot. Personal freedom was on the ballot. These three issues, very important to young voters, and they were very important in our success in this election.
Whatever the outcome, you said this week, quote, we need to unify. I think it's really important to restore unity to Congress. What is the Democrats' responsibility there? What steps do Democrats need to take to bring the country together?
Well, we have always been taking that step because we honor our oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, and that should be a unifying principle for us. In many of our bills, we worked very hard to make it bipartisan, and while the bills were bipartisan, the votes were not. So again, I go back to Abraham Lincoln. Public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. And the point I want to make is that when the public knows what is at stake and what is happening there, I think we will see more cooperation. Again, working together to produce a bill, but not having people vote no, take the dough, and make it look like we don't have bipartisanship, when in fact in the bills we do, but in the votes not necessarily. Let the public know.
Before the new Congress is sworn in January, you have a lot of work to do in what will be a lame duck session in December. Probably the top of that list, extending the debt limit, because Republicans have said if they get the majority, they're going to try to force concessions from Democrats in order to extend the debt limit. Do you believe you can get either a permanent or a very large extension of the debt limit during the lame duck session?
Well, I think it would be very important for us to do so. I think it's important to note that what the Republicans have said is they're going to use the vote on the debt limit as leverage to cut Medicare and Social Security. I think the public should know that. It is a difference of opinion, and I think the public should know who's on their side on all of this. We cannot allow them to cut Social Security. It's an insurance program, as is Medicare. People paid into it, and the Republicans cannot use it as leverage to say, we'll only lift the debt ceiling if you will reduce the benefits for our seniors and others on Medicare and Social Security. So we'll see what they contend that they want to do. But our best shot, I think, is to do it now. But again, winning the Senate gave us a lot of leverage for how we go forward if we don't do it in the lame duck. But my hope would be that we could get it done in the lame duck. The Constitution removes all doubt. The full faith and credit of the United States of America is not in doubt. But this is a practice that we have engaged in, and so we'll have to, again, lift the debt ceiling so that the full faith and credit of the United States is respected. There's great risk to even discussing not doing it. When the Republicans did this before, it lowered our credit rating, even though it didn't eventually happen, but just the discussion of it. So this is dealing with fire when we're talking about the stability of our credit rating.
In the face of all this news, we see that Donald Trump is planning to announce for president again on Tuesday. Is that good news for Democrats?
I don't go into any discussion of his plans. I mean, I think it's bad news for the country, let's put it that way, because this is a person who has undermined the integrity of our elections, has not honored his oath of office, who has encouraged people, strange kinds of people, to run for office, who do not share the values of our democracy. They've said it very clearly in their statement. So he has not been a force for good. So I don't think his candidacy is a force for good for our country. But that's up to the Republicans to decide who they will choose. Understand this, we have very vast differences. The Republicans do not support science, so they disregard what we're saying about climate. They don't support governance, so they don't want to honor what science tells us in terms of the planet, in terms of health care and the rest. So we have some very big differences. There's the main event of it all is the presidential. As important as our races are, if we were in Las Vegas, we're the lounge act. There, the presidential is the main event. And this will be a very important election, very dispositive of the direction our country will go in.
So do you think President Biden should run again?
Yes, I do. I mean, President Biden has been a great president for our country. He has accomplished so much. 10 million jobs, over 10 million jobs under his leadership, working with the private sector, of course. He has just done so many things that are so great. We need a lot more show to talk, but he's put money in people's pockets, vaccines in their arms, children back to school, people back to work, for starters, creating 10 million jobs. He has made America independent by passing the CHIPS bill that says we're no longer reliant on those who withhold products that enable us to manufacture in our country. The IRA, I just saw him make the speech in Egypt where he spoke about America's commitment to preserving the planet with the legislation, the IRA, $368 billion in good-paying green jobs, clean air, clean water for our children, a national security issue to stop migrations and competition for habitat and food, as well as honoring our responsibility to future generations. The PACT Act, honoring our veterans, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, all of it with justice, with equity, with inclusiveness, with diversity, taking us to a new place. He has been a great president. He has a great record to run on.
Finally, Madam Speaker, if you do decide to step away from Congress, how do you want your speakerships to be remembered?
Well, I don't have any plans to step away from Congress. You asked me about running for leadership. No, I mean, these votes are very close, though. Well, my flagship issue has, from the start of my being in Congress, has been the climate issue. But in the course of things, when we have the opportunity to expand health care for all Americans, that has to be my major accomplishment. I take great pride in that, great pride in passing it under the leadership of President Obama and working with Harry Reid in the Senate. I take great pride in saving it from those who wanted to repeal it. For what reason, I don't know. You'd have to ask them to remove millions of people from having access to health care. Martin Luther King said, of all the inequalities, the inequality in access to health care is the most inhuman, he said, because people can die. So I thank God for giving me the opportunity to play a role in that, and it's an ongoing role to pass it, to protect it, to expand it. So that would be my... But I take pride in so much else, but I don't take credit for it. My members, the courage of the members, the House Democrats, to vote for this. It's easy for me, coming from the beautiful place I do, San Francisco, harder for others, and it's their courage that made so much of this possible. So I'm so glad that we had a great, we increased, just dispelled the notion that Democrats could not win. We're coming close, but we're on a path to a brighter future for America, and I'm very proud of our members, our candidates, their courage, their purpose, and their success.
Madam Speaker, thank you for your time this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.